Hi. In 1683, Poland saved Europe from Islam. At the time, the fate of Europe hung by a thread, and it was Poland that finally stepped up and, against all odds, defeated a huge Islamic army. If her history is circular, then perhaps it can do the same again for us now, unless it's too late. The parallels between then and now are striking, as are the differences. At that time, Vienna was the gateway between East and West, between Christianity and Islam. Whoever could hold Vienna could have Europe. To the Islamic Ottomans, taking Vienna meant taking much of Europe. It was the key to making Europe part of an Islamic empire. And in 1683, Kula Mustafa was ready. He had an army of 150,000 warriors. At the time, the Ottoman Empire controlled 3.5 million square kilometres, and Europe was in disarray. Countries were arguing with themselves and each other. They had diminished themselves, much like now. Europe was in a weakened condition, and by July 1683, the Ottomans had Vienna surrounded, and the fighting men in Vienna were outnumbered 20-1. It was just a matter of time before the city surrendered, and then Vienna could be the jewel in an Islamic empire. And there were no armies around in a much weakened Europe to stop it. And this was seen as jihad, a holy war. Islam against Christianity. The Papal States were also feuding amongst themselves, but the Pope went to an unlikely source for help against the Islamifying of Europe. Poland was in decline. It was threatened by invasion, but they had King John III, who was an experienced soldier, a powerful leader, and a strong Christian. The Pope's appeal roused him, and he raised an army, all soldiers blessed as if it was a crusade, which it was. The army finally consisted of 80,000 men, Poles, Germans, Habsburgs, others, because unity was the only option if Europe was to survive. Not the fake, hypocritical, fabricated unity of the EU, but a genuine fight to the death to save Western civilization. It needed a leader, and it found one. Despite being only half the size of the Muslim army, King John marched on Vienna, took on Islam, and won. His army saved Europe. If he hadn't acted, we would probably now be speaking Arabic. And so now in the 21st century, we have another Muslim invasion. Small boats carrying many Muslims as illegal migrants. Mosques replacing churches. Sharia law extending its reach over English culture and courts. First cousin marriages producing sick babies which cost the health service in the UK and therefore the taxpayer a fortune. Muslims having larger families to, as an imam once famously said, to breed the English out of existence. Muslims taking over local councils, parliament, Islam winnowing its way into the education system, Arab money starting to control sports and universities, attacks on Christianity, pro-Palestine marches, anti-Semitism rising. This is an Islamic invasion. But it's even worse, because it isn't one army invading from outside, it's also an internal eradication of English culture and religion and politics, happily shepherded in and protected by our traitorous multiculturalists. It is a war on many fronts, and Europe is not united, just the opposite. But in politicians like Dominik Tarczyński in Poland, he has the backbone to stop illegal migrants, to protect his own country culturally and politically from Islamism. Poland has no significant terror attacks, none. Is this related to its policy of not accepting illegal migrants and a low number of Muslims? Of course it is. And there is something in politicians like Dominik Tarczyński who put their family and their country above all else. And if people call them racist or nationalist or Nazis, they don't care. They know who and what they are. His recent speech to the European Parliament was electric. He accused all the leftists of destroying industry because, as he said, of your green gods and your sick ideology. And he said, "It's time to put on armour and not a dress. Be strong, be brave, be like Poland." He said, "We are the brave ones who can save Europe." And I think we could learn a lot from someone like him. And perhaps Poland can play a role in influencing other European countries from continuing their car crash, multicultural, whinging, guilt ridden, suicidal desire to destroy themselves and the rest of us. If you like this, do please share and subscribe. And I put a link below to Tarzinski's speech. Thank you.